The air in my office is the first thing to betray me. It's always been my sanctuary. The scent of old books, citrus polish, and the faint, electric hum of potential. But today, the air is thin. Stolen. It tastes of a cloying, unfamiliar perfume and something sharp, like sterilized steel. He stands in the doorway, my husband, Mark, silhouetted against the bright chaos of the bullpen we built from nothing. He isn't looking at me. His eyes are fixed on the woman beside him, and the way he looks at her is a language I've never heard him speak before, but I understand it instantly. It's a confession. She's younger, of course. Her smile is a bright, predatory slash of red lipstick. She's holding a file, but she holds it like a weapon. My file. Mark finally meets my gaze. His face, the one I've woken up to for 12 years, is a mask of strained professionalism. Elena, he says, and my own name sounds like a violation coming from his lips. This is Chloe. She'll be taking over as Chief Operating Officer. The words don't land. They hover in the stolen air, shimmering and unreal. Chief Operating Officer. My title. The title I earned through a decade of sleepless nights, of deals closed on airport tarmacs, of spreadsheets that bled into sunrises. I look from his empty face to her triumphant one. My mind is a blank screen. I can't find the anger. I can't find the grief. All I can find is a strange, detached curiosity. Taking over? I echo. My voice is a stranger's, calm and flat. Your position with the company is being terminated, he continues, reading from a script he must have practiced in the mirror. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Security. He's talking about Frank, the man who brings me a coffee every morning, the man whose daughter's college tuition we helped with. The world tilts. The glass walls of my office seem to bend, warping the view of the empire we built. Our empire. My fingers are cold on the mahogany desk I picked out. I remember tracing the wood grain with him, dreaming of this exact moment, not this moment, but the feeling of having arrived. We'd done it. We'd made it. And now he is unmaking me. Chloe steps forward, her heels clicking an arrogant rhythm on the floor. I'll need your keys, your laptop, and your access card, she says, her voice as smooth and cold as river stone. She extends a perfectly manicured hand. And that's when I see it. On her wrist. A delicate gold bracelet, a single charm of a North Star dangling from it. The bracelet I gave him for our anniversary last year.
Our guide, I'd said.
To always find his way back. He'd found his way, all right.
Just not back to me.
The world just stopped. The sounds of the office faded into a dull roar, like the ocean heard from inside a seashell. If you've ever had a moment where your entire life shatters, just tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you feel like it, please subscribe. It helps more than you know. 12 years ago, this company was just a whisper between us in a cramped, one-bedroom apartment that always smelled of burnt coffee and ambition. We were kids, really. I was finishing my MBA, my head full of logistics and financial models. Mark was the dreamer, the salesman, the one who could walk into a room of stone-faced investors and walk out with their wallets and their faith. He had a fire in him that could warm a whole city. I wasn't drawn to the fire. I was the one who kept it from becoming an inferno. I was the architect to his vision, the steel framework to his beautiful, fragile glass. We'll call it Apex, he'd said one night, sketching a logo on a stained napkin. Because we're going to the top, Lena. Together. Together. That word was the foundation of everything. We poured our savings into it. We cashed out my grandmother's inheritance. We worked 18-hour days, fueled by cheap takeout and the fierce, unshakable belief that we were building something that would outlast us. I was the one on the phone with suppliers at 3 a.m. negotiating terms. I was the one who designed the entire operational flowchart, the very circulatory system of our business, while he was out charming clients. He was the face, I was the heart. He never made a move without me. What does my consigliera think? He'd always ask, a playful glint in his eye. He made me feel like the most powerful woman in the world, because to him, I was In the early years, when we were running on fumes, we'd sit on the floor of our tiny office after everyone had gone home, sharing a bottle of cheap wine and mapping out our future on a whiteboard. Our children would grow up here. Our legacy would be in these walls. He'd trace the line of my jaw and tell me, "None of this exists without you. You're the magic, Elena." The real magic. I believed him. I believed in that word, together. The first crack in that foundation was so small, I almost missed it. It was about 6 months ago. A new hire.
Chloe.
Mark brought her in as a strategic consultant. He didn't ask me. He told me. "She's brilliant, Lena. A real shark. Comes from Sterling Price." He was so animated, so excited. I remember feeling a strange little chill. It wasn't jealousy.
Not then.
It was territorial. This was our company. We didn't need outside sharks. We were the sharks. "I've already handled the Sterling Price account," I said, keeping my voice even. "We don't need a consultant for that." "This is different," he'd insisted, waving a hand dismissively. "She has a fresh perspective. We're getting stale."
Stale.
The word hung in the air between us. We, who had built this vibrant, breathing thing from dust and dreams, were stale. I let it go. A CEO has to make executive decisions. But I started watching. I noticed the late-night strategy sessions that I wasn't invited to, the hushed phone calls he'd take by walking out onto the balcony, the way he started dressing differently, a little younger, a little sharper. He bought a new car, a sleek, aggressive sports car that wasn't him at all. "We have to look the part, baby," he'd said, but it felt like he was wearing a costume. Then came the little cuts. He'd override a decision I'd made, something he'd never done before. Siding with Chloe's fresh perspective, he'd present one of my ideas in a board meeting and introduce it as a concept Chloe and I developed. My name started to disappear from the narrative of our success. The word together was replaced with I. I confronted him one evening. We were in our kitchen, the one we designed with a huge island so we could always cook together. He was staring at his phone, a small, secret smile on his face. "Mark, what's going on?" I asked, my voice tight. "With Chloe. With us." He looked up, his expression instantly shuddered. "What are you talking about?" "She's an asset. The company is up 7% this quarter." "I'm not talking about the company," I said, my heart starting to pound. "I'm talking about you. You're distant. You're cutting me out." He let out a short, humorless laugh. "God, Elena, are you serious? Is this some kind of petty professional jealousy? I thought you were bigger than that. I'm trying to grow our company, and you're worried about your feelings." He turned my fear into a weakness. He weaponized my love for our shared dream and used it against me. That was his new talent. He made me feel small. He made me feel like I was the one who was stale. The argument ended with him sleeping in the guest room. He said he had an early meeting. I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, feeling the cold seep into our bed, into our home, into the very bones of the life I thought we had. The firing, when it came, wasn't the inciting incident. It was just the execution. The betrayal had been happening in slow motion for months. Frank, bless his heart, can't look at me. He stands awkwardly by the door, his big hands clenching and unclenching. "I'm sorry, Elena," he mutters, his gaze fixed on the floor. "It's not your fault, Frank," I say, and the kindness in my own voice surprises me. My hands are shaking as I place my laptop in a cardboard box. It's one of the ones from the supply room, smelling of fresh paper and endings. I add a framed photo from my desk. Mark and I on the day we signed the lease for this very office, his arms slung around me, both of us grinning like idiots. I hesitate, then I put it in the box face down. Chloe is watching me from my chair. My chair. She's already logged into my computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard, colonizing my digital life. She doesn't even have the decency to wait until I'm gone. The message is clear. I am already a ghost. Walking through the bullpen is the longest journey of my life. Every head turns. I see 100 different expressions: pity, fear, a few with a flicker of something like satisfaction. These are people I hired. people whose careers I nurtured, people I fought for. And now, they watch in silence as I'm paraded out like a criminal. No one says a word. No one meets my eye. Their silence is 1,000 tiny cuts. Mark has not just fired me, he has excommunicated me. The elevator doors slide shut, and in the mirrored surface, I see myself. A woman with a cardboard box full of a life that no longer exists. I look hollowed out. Frank clears his throat.
He's a fool, ma'am.
We all know you built this place. His words are a small, flickering candle in the suffocating darkness. I give him a weak smile. Thank you, Frank. The first few weeks are a blur of gray. My house, our house, feels enormous and empty. Every object is a memory, every room a monument to a future that was stolen. I hire a lawyer, a sharp woman named Diana, with eyes that miss nothing. We meet in her sterile, impersonal office. He's offering you a buyout for your shares, she says, sliding a document across the table. It's low. Insultingly low. I scan the numbers. He's valuing my half of $1 billion company at pennies on the dollar. He's trying to erase me from the financial records as thoroughly as he's erasing me from the company history. He's claiming your contributions were minimal, Diana continues, her voice devoid of emotion. That you were founder in name only. A spousal courtesy, title. A spousal courtesy. The words ignite a slow, cold fire in my gut. All the nights I spent sleeping on the office couch, all the contracts I bled over, all the fires I put out while he was schmoozing investors, all of it reduced to a courtesy. We fight it, of course. We file counterclaims. The battle becomes a war of paper. Deposition dates are set. His lawyers are sharks, twisting my words, painting me as a disgruntled wife, not a founding partner. They use our personal life against me, details Mark has fed them. An argument we had over vacation. A disagreement about an investment. They weave it into a narrative of my emotional instability, my lack of business acumen. Meanwhile, news from Apex trickles in through former colleagues who are brave enough to speak to me in hushed tones. Chloe, the shark, is gutting the company culture. She's all about aggressive growth, slash-and-burn tactics. She's fired half of my core team, the loyalists, the ones who remembered the early days. She's replacing them with her own people, sycophants who mirror her ambition and lack of soul. They're spending money like water. Lavish client parties, a private jet lease, a complete redesign of the executive floor. Mark, who was once so frugal he'd reuse tea bags, is now a king holding court in a palace I paid for with my own sweat and sacrifice. I watch the company's stock, once a steady, beautiful upward climb, begin to stutter. It dips. It rallies weakly. It dips again, lower this time. Every point it drops feels like a personal failure, a desecration of our legacy. I'm becoming a recluse. I don't answer the phone. I let the mail pile up. I spend my days in pajamas, tracking the slow, agonizing death of my company online, and my nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every warning sign I missed. The loneliness is a physical weight. The man who is my other half, the center of my universe, is now a monster determined to destroy me. He's not just moving on, he's trying to salt the earth where I once stood so nothing can ever grow there again. He doesn't want a divorce. He wants an annihilation. The challenges mount, each one a higher wall to climb. Mark's legal team is relentless. They file motion after motion, designed to bleed me dry. My legal bills are astronomical. I'm forced to sell off personal assets, stocks I'd set aside for our retirement, a future that now seems like a sick joke. Then comes the smear campaign. An article appears in a prominent business journal, a profile on the new power couple at Apex. It paints Mark as a visionary genius, held back for years by a conservative, risk-averse partner. It doesn't name me, but it doesn't have to. The former partner is described as lacking foresight, as being an anchor on his brilliant ascent. Chloe is lauded as the catalyst, the fresh perspective that finally unleashed the company's true potential. They use photos of them on the new company jet, laughing, clinking champagne glasses. They look golden and invincible. I read the article and feel a nausea, so profound I have to run to the bathroom. He's rewriting history. He's gaslighting the entire industry, and they are buying it. Friends I've had for years stop calling. Invitations to industry events dry up. I'm a pariah. The narrative Mark is spinning is sticking. I'm the bitter ex-wife, trying to cash in on his success. The truth, that I was the architect of that success, is buried under a mountain of his lies. My breaking point comes during a deposition. I'm sitting across a long, polished table from Mark for the first time since he fired me. He looks fantastic. Tanned, tailored, confident. He won't meet my eyes. His lawyer, a piranha in a $1,000 suit, is questioning me about the company's early finances. Miss Serrano, he says, with a contemptuous drawl, is it true that in the first year, you advised against the expansion into the European market? An expansion which, records show, ultimately became one of the company's most profitable ventures. I advised caution, I say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I advised that we needed to secure more capital before expanding that aggressively. It was a risk. A risk Mr. Thorne was willing to take, and one that paid off handsomely. The lawyer sneers. It seems a pattern was emerging, wouldn't you say? Him, the visionary. You, the handbrake. I look at Mark, waiting for him to say something. To defend me. To tell them how we argued about it for a week, and how it was my financial model that finally showed us a path to do it safely. How I was the one who worked for 72 hours straight to secure the funding. He just stares at a point on the wall behind my head, his jaw tight. His silence is the cruelest cut of all. He's letting them do this. He's feeding them the ammunition. That night, I hit rock bottom. I sit on my cold kitchen floor, the legal bills spread out around me like a funeral shroud. I'm running out of money. I'm running out of fight. He's going to win. He's going to take it all and leave me with nothing but the ashes of the life we were supposed to have. The despair is a physical thing, a heavy blanket smothering me. I close my eyes, and for the first time, I consider just giving up, taking the insulting offer, signing the papers, letting him have his victory just to make the pain stop. And then something shifts. Through the fog of despair, a different feeling begins to crystallize. It's cold and sharp and utterly clear. It's rage. Not the hot, messy anger of a spurned lover. This is a glacial, structural rage. The rage of an architect watching a vandal tear down a cathedral. He called me a handbrake. He called me a courtesy title. He thinks I'm just an emotional woman he can bully into submission. He has forgotten who I am. He has forgotten that I was the one who built the engine. I know every wire, every circuit, every line of code in that company's DNA. He may be the face, but I was always the god in the machine. I stand up, my knees cracking. I walk into my home office, a room I haven't been able to enter for weeks. I turn on my old personal computer and pull up the original company bylaws, the ones I drafted myself 12 years ago in our tiny apartment. I scroll through the dense legal language, my mind suddenly sharp, the fog burned away by this newfound fire. And then I see it. Clause 1138, Section B. A failsafe. A little detail I insisted on back when we were nothing, a clause to protect a founding partner from a hostile takeover by another. It stipulated the exact process for a buyout, but it also contained something else, a mechanism for board intervention in the case of gross fiscal mismanagement or actions deemed detrimental to the company's long-term health. Mark, in his arrogance, has forgotten it exists. Or more likely, he never even read it that closely. He left the boring details to me. The handbrake. A slow smile spreads across my face. It feels foreign, sharp at the edges. He thinks this is a divorce. He's playing checkers. I'm about to start playing chess. This is no longer about getting my fair share. This is about taking back my kingdom. The crisis deepens before the tide can turn. Mark, feeling my renewed resistance, escalates his war. He freezes our joint accounts, claiming the funds are company assets that I have been misusing. It's a lie, a blatant power play to choke my resources, and it works. Suddenly, I can't pay my mortgage. My credit cards are declined. The humiliation is a physical blow, standing at a grocery store checkout with a full cart and an empty account. He's trying to break me, to make me so desperate that I'll have to crawl back to the table and accept his terms. He leaks another story, this time implying I had my own affair, a pathetic attempt to muddy the waters and paint himself as the victim. It's so ludicrous, so transparently false, that it should be laughable, but people believe it.
The whispers follow me.
I feel like I'm drowning in his lies. I'm forced to ask my parents for a loan. They're retired school teachers, living a quiet life on a modest pension. Asking them for money feels like the ultimate failure. My father, a man of quiet dignity, writes me a check without a word, but I see the worry in his eyes. The shame is a bitter pill to swallow. I am at my lowest, completely isolated, financially crippled, and publicly disgraced. It's exactly where he wants me. He thinks he has me cornered. He thinks the game is over. He has no idea I've just changed the rules. The plan forms in the dead of night, fueled by black coffee and a righteous fury. Clause 1138 is my key, but I need the board. There are 5 members besides Mark and me. 2 are his yes-men, brought on in the last year. But 3 of them are old guard. Arthur Vance, a shrewd, cautious investor who has been with us from the beginning. Beatrice Webb, a formidable industry veteran I personally recruited. And Michael Chen, a tech genius who values data and stability above all else. They are business people. Their loyalty isn't to Mark, it's to the bottom line. And the bottom line is starting to look sick. I start my campaign. It's a covert operation. I can't email them from my personal account. Mark's IT people probably have it flagged. I buy a burner phone. I start with Michael Chen. I know he's a numbers guy. I spend a week compiling a dossier. I use my intimate knowledge of our systems to access back-end analytics he and Chloe wouldn't even know exist. I track the burn rate, the client churn, the failing ROI on their vanity projects. The data is damning. The company is hemorrhaging money, masked by aggressive and misleading quarterly reports. I arrange a meeting at a small, out-of-the-way coffee shop. Michael is hesitant at first, but his curiosity wins. I lay the files on the table between us. I don't talk about the affair. I don't talk about my pain. I talk about the numbers. He's running it into the ground, Michael. I say, my voice low and even. He's treating the company like his personal piggy bank. Look at the data. It's unsustainable. I watch his eyes scan the spreadsheets. I see the flicker of alarm, the slight frown. He's a man who trusts data over charisma. He doesn't say yes, but he doesn't say no. He just takes the folder. I'll look at this, it's enough. Next is Beatrice Webb. Beatrice is about legacy. She's old school. She despises scandal and nepotism. I meet her for lunch at her private club. I let her talk first. She complains about the new direction, the lack of discipline, the tacky, show-off culture Chloe has introduced. She calls Chloe a corporate Kardashian. She has him wrapped around her little finger, Beatrice says, stirring her iced tea with a clink. It's embarrassing. He's turned a respectable company into a circus. I just nod. It's worse than you think, Beatrice. It's not just embarrassing, it's irresponsible. He gave her a signing bonus that was double my annual salary, with no performance metrics attached. He's using company funds for their private vacations, booking them as client relations. I show her the expense reports I managed to pull. The proof. Her face hardens. That arrogant little fool, she whispers. The final piece is Arthur Vance. He's the hardest. He's loyal to Mark, has known him for years. But Arthur is also a creature of self-interest. His entire net worth is tied up in Apex stock. I have to show him that his investment is about to go up in smoke. But I need more than that. I need leverage. This is my biggest gamble. I take the loan from my parents, and I leverage every last penny I have left to begin quietly buying up available Apex stock on the open market. The price is depressed, thanks to Mark's mismanagement. It's a huge risk. If this fails, I will be left with absolutely nothing. Every purchase is a prayer. I drain my accounts, my retirement, everything. Then, I go to Arthur. I lay out the same data I showed Michael, the same expense reports I showed Beatrice. He's defensive at first. Mark is a visionary. There are always growing pains. This isn't a growing pain, Arthur, I say, my voice like ice. This is a death spiral. And when it crashes, your entire portfolio goes with it. He's blinded by her. He's making emotional decisions, not business decisions. You know that's poison. I let that sink in. Then I play my final card. The three of you, Beatrice, and Michael, hold 25% of the company's shares combined. I have spent the last month acquiring another 26%. Together, I say, leaning forward, we have a 51% controlling interest. We can invoke Clause 1138. We can call an emergency board meeting. We can save this company. Or, you can ride it all the way to the bottom with him. Your choice. I see the calculation in his eyes. The battle between loyalty and survival. I watch him weigh the charismatic man he thought he knew against the cold, hard numbers on the pages in front of him. And the even colder numbers I just presented. Greed, in the end, is a more powerful motivator than friendship. When do we do it? He asks. The day of the emergency board meeting. The air in the city is thick with an impending storm. The sky is a bruised purple-gray. It feels appropriate. I walk into the Apex Tower for the first time in 6 months. The receptionist's eyes go wide. I don't give her a chance to stop me. I walk past her, my heels clicking a steady, determined rhythm on the marble floor. I'm not the ghost anymore. I'm the reckoning. The boardroom is on the top floor. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawls below us, a kingdom I built and am about to reclaim. Mark is already there, at the head of the table. Chloe is beside him, in my old seat. She's wearing a blood-red dress, a splash of violence against the cool gray of the room. When they see me, Mark's face goes pale. Chloe's smug smile falters for just a second. What are you doing here, Elena? Mark sputters, rising slightly from his chair. You have no right to be here. Security. They work for the company, Mark. Not for you. I say, my voice calm and carrying across the long table. And today, the company's interests are being reevaluated. I take a seat directly across from him. Beatrice, Arthur, and Michael are already there. They nod at me, their expressions grim and resolute. Mark looks at them, then back at me, confusion warring with anger on his face. The other 2 board members, his cronies, look nervous. What is the meaning of this? He demands, his voice rising. This meeting is out of order. On the contrary, Arthur says, his voice dry as dust. According to Clause 1138, Section B of the company bylaws, a meeting can be called by a majority of board members to address concerns of gross fiscal mismanagement. We have concerns. Mark looks stunned. He clearly has no idea what Clause 1138 is. He looks at Chloe, but she's just as lost. They're the visionaries. They don't bother with the fine print. I begin. I don't raise my voice. I don't use emotional language. I present the facts. One by one, I project the data onto the screen at the end of the room. The burn rate, the client attrition, the bloated expense accounts, the private jet, the multi-million-dollar Hamptons rental booked as a corporate retreat for 2. With every slide, the color drains further from Mark's face. He tries to interrupt, to object, but Arthur and Beatrice shut him down with cold precision. These are lies. Fabrications, he yells, his composure cracking. The numbers don't lie, Mark, Michael Chin says softly, not looking up from his copy of the report. They are your numbers. Chloe tries a different tactic. This is nothing but a pathetic revenge fantasy from a bitter woman who couldn't handle being replaced by someone better. She spits, pointing a red nail at me. I don't even look at her. I look directly at Mark. Better? Is that what you call a 22% drop in market valuation in 6 months? Is that what you call losing the Sterling Price account, our oldest and most loyal client? News of that loss hadn't gone public yet. Mark flinches, as if I'd slapped him. How did you? You seem to forget, Mark, I say, my voice dropping to a near whisper. I built this house. I know where all the bodies are buried. Because I'm the one who buried them. The final slide goes up. It's a simple pie chart showing the current shareholder distribution. A huge blue slice is labeled Elena Serrano and Allied Partners. 51%. The silence in the room is absolute. Mark stares at the screen, his mouth slightly agape. He looks from the screen to Arthur, to Beatrice, to Michael. He sees no support in their faces. Only judgment. He finally looks at me, and for the first time, I see utter, complete understanding in his eyes. He finally sees the board. He finally sees the game. He finally sees me. A motion has been brought to the board, Arthur announces into the stillness. A vote of no confidence in CEO Mark Thorne, effective immediately. He goes down the line. Michael? Aye, Beatrice? Aye, my vote is aye, Arthur says.
He looks at me. Ellen?
I hold Mark's gaze. I see 12 years of love and laughter curdle into hatred. I see our dream dying in his eyes. I say. The sound that escapes Mark's lips is not a word. It's a strangled, guttural noise of pure shock. He clutches his chest, his face turning a blotchy, alarming shade of red. He stumbles backward, his hand knocking over a glass of water. It shatters on the floor. Mark, Chloe says, her voice suddenly small. He sways on his feet, his eyes wide with a terror that has nothing to do with business. He looks at me, his mouth opening, but no sound comes out. And then he collapses. His body hits the floor with a heavy, final thud. The king has fallen. The castle is mine. The aftermath is quiet chaos.
Paramédic arrive.
Mark is taken away on a stretcher, conscious but pale, diagnosed with a severe panic attack that mimicked a heart attack. Chloe tries to go with him, but I stop her. You don't work here anymore, I say, my voice leaving no room for argument. Your personal effects will be mailed to you. She stares at me, her red lipsticked mouth a perfect O of shock and fury. For the first time, she looks her age, young, out of her depth, and utterly defeated. She turns and walks out of the boardroom without another word, her reign over. I am now the acting CEO of Apex. The days that follow are a whirlwind of damage control. I hold an all-hands meeting. I stand before the employees, the same people who watched my humiliating exit, and I lay out the truth. I don't spare Mark, but I don't vilify him either. I speak of mismanagement, of a loss of vision, and of my unwavering commitment to restoring the company's integrity. I promise stability. I promise to rebuild what was broken. I see relief in their faces. I see hope. The work is grueling. I spend weeks untangling the financial mess Mark and Chloe left behind. I renegotiate bad deals, I rehire key people they fired, and I personally fly out to meet with our biggest clients to win back their trust. It's like performing surgery on the company I love, cutting away the diseased parts to save the whole. Mark and I communicate only through lawyers. The divorce is swift and brutal. He fights for every penny, but he has no leverage. He is a disgraced CEO with a tarnished reputation. I am generous in the settlement, more generous than he deserves. I don't want his money. I just want him gone. I want my life back. Some nights, I sit alone in my old office, now my office again, looking out at the city lights. It's not a triumphant feeling. It's a quiet, sober satisfaction. I won. I saved my legacy from the man I'd once trusted to protect it. But the victory is bittersweet. The company thrives under my leadership, stronger and more resilient than ever. But the ghost of what we built together, the ghost of the man I loved, will always haunt these halls. I didn't just win a company. I survived a war. And victory, I've learned, has its own kind of scars. I saved my company, but I lost the man I built it with. Sometimes winning feels a lot like surviving. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.